Hello, East Hampton Town Board. We are live, being recorded and streamed. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the East Hampton Town Board work session of Tuesday, January 14th, 2025. Carol, if you could please read the roll call.
Councilmember Flight?
Present.
Councilmember Lease?
Present.
Councilmember Rogers? Councilmember Calder-Piedmont?
Present.
Supervisor Burke Gonzalez?
Present. If we could all please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so today we start with public portion, and we ask you to please keep your comments kindly to 3 minutes. And then we've got 4 topics. We're looking to at an amendment to Chapter 246, Town Docks, and that'll be presented by David Lease and Senior Harbor Master Tim Treadwell. The second topic is paid parking in Montauk, and again, that'll be led by David Lease and Sergeant Ken Alversa. The third topic is Second House Road and Industrial Road intersection, and that'll be led by David Lease and Jim Peterman from LKMA. Welcome, Jim. And lastly, Rob Connolly, our town attorney, will present an amendment to Chapter 225. It's for East Hampton Volunteer Ocean Rescue to have an exemption based on legislation signed by the governor. That will be followed by liaison reports and then resolutions. I just want to say, Council member Kate Rogers is home with the flu, and we hope that she has a speedy recovery. So, Carol, I don't know, has anyone signed up for public comment? Is there anyone here that would like to address the board? No? Jason, is there anyone on the line?
Absolutely. We have one caller on the line. May I unmute?
Please.
All right. Hello, caller ending 376. Oh, hey, how are you? You can already hear me.
Okay, this is Brad Brooks from Springs. I'm just following up from emails I've sent, a few questions. I was going to ask about solar, but since Kate's not there, I won't pursue that today, but I'm hoping the town is looking at solar on its own buildings, is pursuing community solar. I hope there's more information about that. The other reason I'm calling in is, as I've sent many emails about the senior center, I'm trying to find out what the total cost will be. There's not much discussion about how much debt's being taken on, what interest rates are. I mean, the history of this project is it started out at $8 million. 3 years ago, the town was talking about spending $10 million. Now you're talking about $28 million, but there's no real clarity on the how much debt, which seems to me could be at least $20 million. By my calculations, in the long run, this project may cost the town $48 to $50 million. Is there any clarity? Has the town done any calculations about how much this will cost in the long run? My second point about the senior center is, I realize the town is using the mineral exemption now to build on a new site, but why? The town spent 5 years coming up with an 18,000 square foot plan that was approved by many different committees on the current site. Maybe the town should consider going back to using the mineral exemption for that. That project would be 50% larger than the current site and may cost the town half the amount of money. I hope the town seriously considers that. And I guess the other thing is really I want to talk more about solar. But I'm hoping, the federal government is providing tax credits still, it looks like. The town seriously should think about putting solar on all of its buildings. It received a NIPA report about this over 5 years ago. So I hope this year, while you still have a chance to take advantage of federal credits, you do take that step. And I appreciate any information you could provide today. And if not, you could respond to my emails, I guess. Thanks.
Thank you, Brad. Jason, is there anyone else on the line?
We have no other callers on the line.
Okay, so we will start with the amendment to Chapter 246, Town Docks. David Lease and Senior Harbor Master Tim Treadwell. I don't know, do you need to come up
Tim,
at the podium?
if you come up, please, it'd be great.
Morning and welcome, Tim.
Morning. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. In a movement to continue the modernization of government and also make things, continualize to make things efficient in all our town offices. For the last couple of years, the town of East Hampton, working with the Harbor Master's office, town attorneys, and also the clerk's office, has looked into ways where we can try to streamline the permitting aspects of commercial slips and also recreational slips that the town has in East Hampton. Those locations primarily are at the head of the harbor on 3 Mile Harbor, Gann Road, commercial dock, and then also Montauk on the West Lake and also Star Island docks then too. In the past, the permits were handled by the clerk's office, but enforced by the Marine Patrol office. What we're looking to do right now is to consolidate those efforts, as the Marine Patrol knows the individuals that are in these slips, the boats also, and the commercial slips, to make it a little bit more streamlined, to be able to answer the questions and make it easier for the residents of the town right now. Working with Senior Harbor Master Treadwell, Carol Brennan, the town clerk. Also, we're looking to formalize this by moving forward, but to do this, to get ready for the calendar season 2025, to accept the applications for these locations, we need to do a code amendment that adds the Senior Harbor, to the Marine Patrol, also known as the Harbor Master's Office, to the town code, and also redacting an outdated terminology that we have in the town code called Bay Constable, which we don't use anymore here. That will then legally allow us to move forward with this and the benefits that we see long-term. This has been discussed in the Town Slips Committee, which is also known as the Harbor and Docks Review Committee. They support the movement of these processes to the Marine Patrol office then too, and eventually we would like to go on to OpenGov to make it easier for individuals to do these applications, pay for these applications online, but at the same time, there's another option about coming into the office also then too. So that's the genesis of this legislation change, a small little wording on there then too. I'll leave it. Any other comments up to Senior Harbor Master Treadwell.
Thank you. I believe you pretty much covered everything. I mean, it's basically we're looking for better efficiency, modernization, and it'll aid enforcement. I also think it'll help the Marine Patrol officers and the harbor masters interact in a positive way with the boating public, because we'll be more interfaced with them through this process. So I think that'll also be an advantage to the town. And since we generally know, a lot of the boaters, whether on the commercial sector or the recreational sector, I think it'll be easier for them if they have an issue to reach out to us or something like that, and we should be able to handle it. And also, I believe the online application process on OpenGov will also make everything a lot easier for everyone, and also decrease some of the burden on the clerk's office currently with the application process.
Thank you. So to move this ahead, those changes would have to necessitate the next steps, which would be the board agrees to this change and the change of the code and moving everything into the town harbor master's office. We would have to notice a public hearing, have the public hearing, and a resolution to approve the changes to the code prior to advance of them being able to issue or accept permits for the upcoming season. And as we still maybe are on January 14th, the upcoming season will be upon us before we know it, particularly in the processes and the length that it takes. So that's the conversation for the board today.
Okay. Do you want to go through the legislation or?
Sure. The legislation changes that we'll be looking at, we'll be changing legislation of Chapter 246 to the town code. This would be for waterways and boats, specifically in the definitions of the permit issuing authority. We would change it from the town clerk to the town harbor master, as also referred to as the town marine patrol. Under 246.3 supervision and control, we would be removing the terminology of Bay Constable on there. Application procedure in 246E would go from the clerk to the harbor master, and also the application procedure in D for a float permit then too would be from the clerk to the harbor master. Mooring regulations would be the same, removing Bay Constable, which is antiquated to our town right now, and removing that through 246.4, removal of disabled boats, wharfish fees at public docks, removing Bay Constable, adding town harbor master. 246.14, power boats include certain waters, again from the clerk to the harbor master. Article 3, town docks, which is 246.18, recreational docks, town clerk, town harbor master, and A and B. And then commercial docks, which is 246-19, again, from the town clerk to the harbor master, and A, B, 1, 8, and 10 of that section. We'd also be removing in Article 5, vessel waste no discharge zone and 246-13 inspections, removing Bay Constable. And then also in Article 7, enforcement and penalties, 246-34 enforcement, removing Bay Constable from that language there. And that's what we would be noticing for a public hearing. This is currently up on the town's website under our meeting information then too. And if anyone has any questions or comments, please reach out to myself, Tim, or our legal team on this also then too.
Do board members have any questions? or
I do have one.
comments?
It's Tim, David, Carol even. How many permits do we process a year annually for the harbors?
Well, your mooring permits, you mean? Probably around, I would say, 200, approximately. The trustees also issue permits on trustee waters. They've also adopted an online system that's worked out well for them, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, I know the goal, longer term goal is to move to OpenGov, obviously, which will reduce some of the human interaction, but you definitively have the personnel in your office to deal with 200 people potentially coming in to process an application. That would be my only kind of,
Yes, sir.
okay, great.
Anyone else have any?
No, it makes sense to me.
And if I could maybe just clarify one thing, the Bay Constable title is not just no longer used in the town. Suffolk County Civil Service got rid of that title, and now it's just Harbor Master 1, 2, and 3. There's no longer a Bay Constable title in Suffolk County Civil Service.
Great. So, I mean, this is very straightforward. You're looking to notice it Thursday?
It would be my preference if the board
Yeah.
supports this. Notice that Thursday, we can have the public hearing at the first meeting in February, approved shortly after, and hopefully based on that turnaround time, we'd be able to start accepting and issuing permits through this process by March.
Right.
Which, you know, I always say if you're not ready by St. Patty's Day, where we have a former, Grand Marshal here right now, you're already behind right now. So I'd like to get in front of that.
Especially since February, we only have one Thursday night meetings for public hearings, so it makes sense. Okay, sounds good.
Okay, thank you. So we'll notice that for
you.
the public hearing. We'll keep you informed, Tim. And Carol, and I thank you so very much for your assistance on that.
Great. Okay, so next up, we have paid parking in Montauk, and that is with David and Sergeant Ken Alversa.
Thank you very much. Just one moment.
Welcome, Sergeant Alversa. Thanks for joining us today.
Morning, thanks for the invite.
So I'm printed out a
So
little.
this, we're going to have Anne Marie put this.
Yes,
got the
please.
PowerPoint up.
So I want to, we also have with us Chief Michael Sarlo here, but primarily Sergeant Alversa has been assisting me with this project. We want to roll through this. This is a review of our season 2024 paid parking, which we instituted specifically in Montauk and locations on there. Before I start, I want to thank many people within the town of East Hampton staff for assisting me. Chief Sarlo on this, Ken Alversa, Lieutenant Pete Powers, Eddie Schnell, Carol Brennan on there, Rob Connolly, John Rooney. These are all individuals that assisted Steve Lynch and Terry Nesbitt for preparing the locations with cutbacks. Small little things, signage going up there from Steve O'Brien and his staff. So to get to the point where we are now in a successful season, it takes many individuals to get there. So if I missed one, an individual, please don't mean that I didn't miss you, because you really aided on this. It's for the benefit of the town and the residents. So let's move forward if we don't mind. Thank you. So just to explain this, the 2024 paid parking initiative, what we did is our historical locations for paid parking in the town of East Hampton prior to 2024 were two major beach parking lots, one being Atlantic Avenue in Amagansett and Kirk Park Beach Parking Lot in Montauk here. In 2022, discussions were started with the East Hampton Town Police Department, the Clerk's Office, and Citizens Advisory Committee how to modernize East Hampton Town parking enforcement and potentially add in paid parking. Starting in 2020, or probably in 22, but 23 and 24, we worked with the town of East Hampton. I worked with the town of East Hampton to evaluate all the business district parkings in advance of any new paid parking initiative in the hamlet of Montauk Commercial Business District, specifically, and also discussed this multiple times with citizens advisory committees to find out if we add on new paid parking, how would that affect the other parking locations of Montauk, in which what we don't want to do is burden some of the business owners or resident property owners on there with people trying to leak into other areas. So we evaluated that and added some new code and language to put some more restrictive time parking in certain locations. In 2024, additional license plate readers were procured and added to traffic control officer vehicles other than two, which was a key component to this, to be able to work more efficiently as an enforcement team together to be able to read these locations for paid parking, integrate it with our parking system, which is Park Mobile, but also do permit and time parking in other locations, specifically of the Montauk sector for summer 24. In 2024, working with Becky Hansen, Neji Valera, thank you very much, and G.D. Carrozza. Those are other names I have to say thank you to this aspect of it. For the finance side of it, the town contracted with Park Mobile to institute a mobile app-based paid parking program in specific zone locations. Next, please. As you see in the next slide, in 2024, the paid parking initiative that we went through, we added the Park Mobile application was added to be able to be used at Kirk Park, beach parking lot, and specifically in 3 locations, two on South Elmwood and 1 on South Edison. These new paid parking was added to these locations where the right-of-ways were already improved with either asphalt and lineage on there. And again, as I noticed earlier, they were cut back to make sure cars were able to park there and stay out of the paved area of the travel lanes. Permit parking was always allowed at any of these locations, and that would be for East Hampton Town resident or non-resident parking permit. So these were the locations where they were added. If you give me 1 second on there. According to John Rooney, using the paid parking apps and applications were very easy on the back end right now, meaning that if I wanted to go into there and find out how it was being used that day, it was very easy to pull that information out, very easy to see how many unique individuals were being used. So in Kirk Park, there's a calendar year, just on the paid parking, we did 3,151 transactions. And that was pretty steady to where we have been in the past. Actually, this calendar year, we actually did more transactions, and that could be based on weather and other factors. The right-of-way locations here never had any restricted parking to them at all. So you could park there without permits or without paying historically. By adding into these selective locations by a lifeguard at beach and also by public bathrooms, we thought it'd be a good way to increase non-tax revenue to the town, and it was. So in the right-of-way, if we did 3,151 unique transitions in Kirk Park, to the board, guessing game, how many unique transitions do you think we did in the right-of-way parking? Yeah, come on.
1,000, a third.
800.
801.
Well,
I'm gonna go to Vegas. I'm gonna go to Vegas with you.
We did 3,151 in Kirk Park. We did 2,857 in the locations in the right-of-ways, which means we almost matched where we were in locations that were never been used before, and then we were free parking. That equated to nearly $72,000 in revenue just from those locations in there. The reason I state that is that it was a good amount of non-tax revenue. It was a nice summer that we had here, but I also only I received one minor comment on it initially, some of them about signage and stuff. I didn't receive person to my office, and I can't speak for the rest of the town board members or PD or clerk's office. Many complaints about how the interface about using a mobile application for paid parking was for their experience to the beach. I think that's very important because initially I wanted to actually put kiosk in these locations because I didn't know if individuals were going to be able to perform the app-based payments, but it ended up being pretty good. And I think we should save the town and not add the kiosk, which would be another savings of probably about $40,000 minimum. So that would be one of my recommendations moving forward. Next slide, if you don't mind. And Sergeant Alversa, you want to tell us how this worked from the East Hampton Town Police Department's aspects?
Sure. So we implemented this program in the spring of last year. We had never utilized LPR or license plate reader technology for our traffic control officers before. So there was a bit of a learning curve for both them and on the technology aspect of the equipment. We made some adjustments to the vehicles with the number of plate readers as we progressed through the program, and we found out the most efficient number of readers was 4 per vehicle. So at the current state, we have 2 traffic control vehicles that are outfitted with that appropriate number of cameras to read all angles of parked vehicles without having to do adjustment within the computer software. So they can pick up vehicles parked on Main Street, for example, or vehicles that are parked head-in at Kirk Park, and having 4 cameras on a vehicle allows them to do that the most efficient way and save them time from having to adjust different settings within the vehicle and the software. So once we worked out those bugs in the beginning. It was a very smooth season. It was easy for the traffic control officers to operate the software, both on the Park mobile interface, but also on LSAG, which is the plate reader itself. And sometimes you had to cross-reference systems to do different things, but they were able to do that without any problems. So we've expanded the number of traffic control officers that are now trained in the software. That requires some additional background checks and fingerprinting, but we've increased that number in anticipation of this program growing for the summer of 2025. So from our front, we found it to be very efficient. They can scan larger swaths of parking spaces from the car. They do it very quickly. They return and check that area again in the appropriate different times throughout the day, depending on if it's permit parking or time parking. And it worked out great for us once we got a handle on everything. So any additional growth of the program from on my front on PD would be greatly welcomed, as if we're looking to do it at different other hamlets within the community. It's definitely a helpful aspect for us.
Well, thank you very much. I had the pleasure of doing a ride around with some of your traffic control officers. I think we're very fortunate to have traffic control officers that are of a good temperament, but also that are well educated in what they do. Because during that ride around, and I think I mentioned this at a town board meeting, maybe during the summer of 2024, there were some individuals that weren't happy, but it was their fault. You know, and then we actually encountered forgeries of governmental instruments, of stickers on there. I wouldn't notice them if I went by that car, but your traffic control officers did, and that's a kudos to them and their training between you and the chief and the staff on there. I thank you for that, Ken, and that goes into some of the next page, if you don't mind. These are some. Please.
Kenny, how many cars then, traffic control vehicles, do we have typically out on?
On a good day, 5.
We roll back one.
Okay, on 5. And then how many are equipped now with 4 cameras apiece?
2.
Okay. So I would imagine in the capital plan for 2025, we've got more license plate readers?
Yes, we've been working to add, purchase another 4 camera system and outfit 1 more vehicle.
Okay. Thank you.
Good question, and that goes into some of the recommendations next on there then too, is that we would like to add Park Mobile to the Atlantic Ave Beach parking lot for this calendar year 2025. That would necessitate new zones be set up and some back system work we would have to do. It would be the recommendation to still maintain a presence there with one of our beach parking lot attendants at that location, because in this location we don't allow for paid parking 7 days a week, only on certain days, and also to have the interface with the individual out there might be good then too. But again, it would be very easy for individuals, so we don't have to collect cash, have any interaction with cash or credit cards at the end of the day when we batch out on there. We would like to equip more TCO vehicles with LPR systems, because if we're going to do that in the location of Ambigans, it will allow us then to use LPRs to force permit parking at the other beaches, Indian Wells Beach, on the road ends in the Amagansett sector, and we would like to also get out and do this in Wayne, Scott, Northwest Wood, and these locations. And it would just make things more efficiently, so we could actually have more enforcement, more touches, if you want to say, throughout the day on there. So by bringing that from Montauk to Amagansett and expanding the system, if we can get the infrastructure on the cars and everyone trained, we'd be able to do that at a greater capacity capacity. Now,
So can I just ask, the
Please.
license plate reader, it picks up between what's a resident sticker and a non-resident sticker, or?
Yep, the systems work on the back end, so what Carol is inputting and who's paying on the apps, all the data is there, and the plate readers cross-reference that data and then will alarm when one is not either by permit or by paid.
Got it. And then Carol, how often does your office, so I go in the morning and I buy a sticker and I go to the beach that afternoon. How do you have to, is it like being updated in real time, or does it like get done at the end of the day?
IT is doing that
Okay.
after hours, so David and I were discussing that the other day on, how we could do it so that it would be real time.
but the data drop is once a day on there. So there might be a lag time if you buy a permit at 12 noon. It might not be prepared to the next day. But what happens, what the TCOs are doing when a car dings, they will get out and check the car visually, make sure, because there's other different types of permits that we have that are beach permits, hotel permits that can be transferable. So they double check, and they also call the clerk's office a lot too. So there's a lot of interaction there. Part about using the LPRs are not just about the beach parking permits, but also time parking then too. Now on the LSAG from the set.
That's the license plate reader company.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know if it's an acronym or not, but you can go 30-minute, 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour parking. We don't have 3 hour. We have 3-day parking, 72-hour parking in the town of East Hampton, and they go through all that. One of the things in the locations of the current paid parking, since there was never any restrictions, we don't necessarily have a count right now. We can get that for the board of how many actually violations of no permit parking or paid parking were there. So that happened a lot this summer also then too. So
We also had some self-correction for people who might have tried to circumvent timed parking.
shocking.
And when they did not see the TCO walking around with the chalk stick, some people would try to wipe the chalk off their tires historically. So we do not have that problem anymore now.
Yeah, so it's a virtual
It
chalking
was a
mark on it.
self-corrected problem.
What is the rough cost of one LPR?
One camera itself is about $10,000. So set up and everything, you're probably looking about $45,000 to $50,000 as far as the computer systems and such.
And can they be stationary as well, or do they have to be fixed to a vehicle?
They have the capability to do either. For our purposes, obviously the mobile ones are more efficient.
Right. I'm just thinking at the sanitation centers where we have an issue of people going in without a permit, dumping. Do you see potential that they could work in a situation like that we could again cross-reference vehicles coming in against Carol's list of who has permits?
They can be mounted stationary. Different organizations, schools, police departments have stationary cameras, so it's a possibility.
So just to move on, if you don't mind. Oh, sorry, Ian.
The only thing I was going to say is to Kathy's question about whether it updates in real time. It does if it's the paid mobile.
Correct. Paid.
So I think the license plate readers have the technology, but Carol's system is different right now. We had a preliminary meeting with Carol and David about using them more often for longer term permits as well. So I think it would be possible. Just technologically, there has to be a bridge between whatever Carol uses and LS, whatever the acronym is.
LSAG, sure.
LSAG.
And I think this is part of the modernization of parking within the township that we're doing also then too. One of the reasons we also picked Park Mobile was because other municipalities in the area use it. Mm-hmm. So the user group we think we would have out here might be traveling to different villages or townships. We didn't want to make it too burdensome for them, but once we went through the procurement, that's another reason why we picked Park Mobile too. I'll move forward if you don't mind. So again, another recommendation is to use LPR parking systems to enforce permanent paid parking and time parking townwide. That would be anywhere from Northwest Woods all the way to Gin Beach. And then also, we would like to recommend adding an additional right-of-way parking location to South Emerson to the paid parking initiative. And this on the screen, you can see it's in the orange. It's a location that we did not do last year, but it makes tremendous sense because it is the closest beach parking that is not regulated right now. It's approximately 9 more parking spots there. And we are seeing individuals sort of stay there for a longer period of time overnight. And we would like to add that to the paid parking location then then too. It would mean that these locations would be for paid parking still, and then also for Kirk Park. It's a minor addition, but there could be additional non-tax revenue that would come into this location, and I believe it just sort of makes sense there then too. And to do that, we would have to do a code change because any location that we add for paid parking, including this, we would need to put in the town code as we did the other three also then too. So with that, that is our update for the paid park initiative for 2024. Again, it was something that was talked about for multiple years. I really do want to thank Chief Sarlo for working with me on this and working with the town board as we try to move that ahead to a point where we're here. I think we're seeing some of the benefits of it. Allows the town to then put some of that money into beautification projects, specifically in downtown Montauk, as we have discussed, continue to do so. It wasn't without some bumps. But in the end, there was great rewards over their efficiency, modernization, and trying to increase some non-tax revenue. So that's our presentation for the day. Any questions, please?
Questions, comments? I mean, one thing that has just shared me with anecdotally is that some residents have felt there might have been a knock-on impact to other parking lots in the town. I haven't seen any of them personally super full as a result of this, but I do think that potentially has an impact. You and I have talked about this online, in terms of the parking lots in town. The one I have some concerns over is behind the new pharmacy location. I think that's going to see a huge amount of traffic, and how we manage the balance of parking in that lot between long-term and short-term to ensure that our residents with mobility issues are able to park close to that pharmacy, I think is going to be a key change we want to look at. But I
Date, Tom, for that?
signs up, I haven't heard the opening date, no. But very excited for that. The only other location that, just again, if we are considering new locations, again, with knock-on impacts, we put in that new dirt or gravel parking lot on South Eaton. Since we've done the paid parking in Kirk Park, that thing is full almost all the time. So again, a future expansion area potentially, because that does get a lot of use, both by people visiting the beach, but also by hotel residents, even though it's only meant to be 2 hours.
So I agree with both of those, Tom. So Sergeant Alverson and I met multiple times during the season, after season, Chief Starline discussed, even Lieutenant Powers also, to get this going. We were looking for trends in parking in Montauk. We did, I think what we're planning to do, I know what we're planning to do is look at some of the municipal parking lots, because some of the language in it is confusing. And one of the things we could add is like what we did in Amigans is for like 30-minute parking. What 30-minute parking does potentially, it actually adds for more turnover, which helps the business district on there, quick in, quick out, but at the same time allow for longer term parking, and they are of different types, if it was 24 hours, 2 hours or such. So we'll continue to look into that and other locations. I think as what was one of the successful aspects of this is there are other locations where there's uninhibited parking in Montauk. You have to go find it. I'm not necessarily going to tell you where it is, but what we did here is we tried to slowly roll this initiative out to see what the benefits are and if we can handle that as a township. I think we've proven that we can, and we looked at gradually institute more of it as it is properly based. So we'll continue to work with you, Tom, on that and discuss it.
Great. All right.
Thank you.
Sergeant, thank you so very much.
David, real quick, so just those 15 or 20 spots on Emerson?
Sure.
If you could just, for the record, state your name.
Hi, Chris Carrillo. Dave, just those 15, 20 spots on Emerson did almost like somewhere around 70% of the revenue of all of the Kirk lot. Did something like 3,000 transactions in Kirk and 2,000 plus.
Sure.
So can you just explain that? I mean, that seems pretty wild that only 15 spots did that much compared to the entirety of the Kirk lot.
Sure. So what we actually ended up doing is one of the, no worries, Chris. So in the locations of the right-of-way, we gave 2 options on time-based payments, either for 4 hours or 8 hours. So the majority of the individuals went for the 4-hour segment, and a lot of them actually upped into an additional 4-hour segment. So Does that make sense? So it's
Sitting on the beach and go on the app and then add on another 4 hours, not too
Right,
bad.
so that's two transactions
correct.
versus one
So
transaction.
we thought at a $25, it would be a hook to that to be able to park there instead of being forced. We thought it was reasonable into a different parking lot, maybe north of the highway or such on there. So yes, you're exactly right. That was a successful way as far as putting out what the cost to park there was going to be. So that's why some of those numbers are. But yeah, I mean, it's a very happening beach location that people want to be at. And if you know, by going through the plates, you'd be surprised. I don't think any of us are actually surprised of this. How many out of town or out of state residents come to Montauk for the day or the weekend and want to park near the beach? And this is one of the only locations we can do so without expending tremendous amount of money, purchasing property, and then also developing infrastructure then too.
But you're also near restaurants too.
Oh, you're
You know,
near
it's
it
like,
all,
and
yeah.
like nightlife,
Oh.
as opposed to a Kirk, it's a bit of a hike to get to some of the.
And shopping. You know, you could walk to it all. I mean, I know I've discussed this a lot. I like going to the beach. I like going to the beach from the Outer Banks to Florida, all around and stuff like that. And this is very similar to what most communities do. We have a very wonderful community out here in Montauk, but it costs money to run this community then too, and to making sure that we have appropriate staff to be able to take up municipal waste, to do that. So we need to make sure there's a simple balance. So anyway, the long answer to your short question is we made the fees attractive there, and I think it showed that it was.
Yeah, and just from personal experience, one thing I did notice from my office on Main Street, which is kind of right after Kirk, so between my office, Puff and Putt, there was some people trying to subvert Kirk. So I'd see a lot of people getting out of their car at my office with their beach chairs and stuff. But it seems like Mr. Alverso's guys are able to keep up with that pretty well too.
Yeah, and there's areas over there that are areas that we have to discuss with the state also going forward then too. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right. Good.
Jim Grimes, I'm a business owner in Montauk here, and I think it's great what you're doing. I think one of the dilemmas is going to be for the new pharmacy is that parking lot behind those stores has historically been, I abandon my car on Sunday, take the jitney into the city and just leave it there. And I mean, to the point of years ago, you had cars in that parking lot with 4 flat tires and stuff. You know, when I say I abandoned my car on Sunday, yes, it was Sunday at Labor Day and I'm coming back for St. Patty's Day kind of deal. I don't know what you do to sort of discourage that long-term parking there. The other area that's of concern to me is the road there that runs, and I should know it because I own along it, by the soccer field. You got these Ubers and stuff there. And I got to tell you, it gets to be a real shithole, okay? You've got garbage, you've got people smoking weed there. It's just, I'm going to say it's very unsavory what goes on back there. And I know it's been a dilemma for the police department over the years, how you sort of manage that and control it. I know those same individuals have kind of bounced all around town. But if at some point in your parking studies, if somehow we can address that, that would be really great.
I agree with both things you just said there. Maybe not necessarily the way you said it, but both of them I do. That parking lot, just this year, there was actually a car left in it. The one that's behind by the substation that had weeds growing up underneath of it. We had that removed pretty quickly then too. So I think that's why we're going to look at the code in there, because the code is a little vague in that parking lot.
And that parking lot's been kind of an awkward deal. Is it the bank's parking lot? It used to be the hardware store. Is it the old hardware store's parking lot? I mean, it kind of casts a pretty wide net as far as bringing people in there. You know, you've got all kinds of
Agreed, but
uses.
it's important to have to make sure that the residents can use it in multiple different ways. We'll look at that, and I think it's South Emory.
Yeah, and when
That's South
Kathy
Emory,
mentioned about like the restaurants and stuff, you ain't going to any of the restaurants from that parking lot, because for Muse and that parking lot's full all the time. And a lot of it is that sort of long-term parking in there. So if you did have parking in there that the people going to the restaurants could utilize, I think it'd be great.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks.
Thank you. Is that a wrap?
That's
Okay.
right. Yep.
All right, so now we're up to Second House Road and Industrial Road intersection. And that's with David Leese and Jim Peterman from LKMA. Welcome, Jim.
Sure.
Emery, thank you for pulling that up.
My name is Jim Peterman. I work for Lewis K. McLean Associates, consulting engineers, commonly known as LKMA.
Thank you very much, Jim. So I'm just going to give a project overview, if you don't mind, and we'll go through the run of the show on this one then too. Let me just see where we are at. Okay, this is a discussion on the Second House Road and Industrial Road intersection improvements in Montauk, here in Montauk. This is an update, and we go to the next page here. This location is a long-time collaboration of a project with PSE&G about intersection improvements. This location has been a conundrum because of multiple factors, but what we're looking to do here is discuss and look for drainage, guardrails, beautification, and other aspects of road safety there then too, and specifically trying to work with a lot of the historical flooding that goes to this area to make it safer. This is a highly constrained location. There's high water table there. There's multiple underground utilities in this location. There's multiple roadway inputs in this location, which means there's multiple streets that feed into this location. There's a high volume of traffic year-round, and there's a history of flooding and ponding of water and decreased sight lines for users, whom we'll get into a little bit. These are just two of the pictures on here over Google Maps. Again, this location comes down from if you're on your way to Navy Road, obviously, excuse me, I'm not talking at you. I'm just trying to explain to any individuals that might not frequent this area. If you're coming down Industrial Road, going through town, and it's been used as a way to get around the hamlet area of Montauk also. The roadway and traffic flow design will stay unchanged, still using the area in the middle there, which has to stay because of traffic poles and underground conduits, so that the roadway will stay unchanged, but it will be increased for safety for multiple engineered ways, as we'll discuss. In 2023, we discussed and looked at a possible roundabout design for this location. After meeting with other property owners in that location that abut that location and other user groups, particularly of the commercial end user groups, that design was withdrawn then to stay with this current design, looking at different stop signs, and specifically was because we wanted to make sure that it was such a constrained property that the users of the location would be able to use it effectively and safely, and we decided we would withdraw that design. That leaves us forward to where we are at now. And Jim, if you want to go forward through some of these slides here, what we're looking at right now, and we'll continue the discussion.
Yeah, what's on the screen right now is just an aerial with some pictures that are shown with numbered, showing the location and direction of the pictures. Like we're pictured between picture location 2 and 3. That's the location of, it's almost like a lake every time it rains there. It's a low elevation that is trapped by a higher roadway, industrial second house near the pond. It has to build up to probably to 8 inches deep before it actually starts spilling over the crown of industrial and second house road. More.
Yeah, and I believe we even pumped it out of water.
That was great.
Yeah.
Steve Lynch's response on that storm we had earlier was that, it was the right thing to do because we had forecasted freezing.
Could we possibly speak into the microphone? I apologize. I can't hear you on broadcast.
So I think one of the property owners of the property stated in the most recent storm where there was a lot of flooding in that area because of the water courses. The highway superintendent, Steve Lynch, who couldn't be here today because he's got bronchitis, actually determined to pump the water out of that location because one of the safety issues is if you don't get the water off the roadway, it will freeze, and then you really have true public safety issues. And I think that was a gentleman commending Steve Lynch for taking that initiative.
Yes. Part of the problem or some of the issues that developed more recently on this was PSE&G put this substation in. They had to bring their base elevation up quite a bit to keep it above a certain floodplain. And that area was assuming to be a low area where a lot of the stormwater had sat previously. That's why I believe PSE&G was actually contributing some funds to this construction. that being a substation, they have very large feeds coming out of there and inputs that you really don't see. They're all buried, which kind of constricted us from installing actual drainage structures. There's 4 lines coming out of that facility that head on Second House Road towards Industrial Road that are 6 feet apart, encased in concrete. Now, the water table is only down like 2.3 feet, so that they couldn't go deep with it, so they had to spread them. So what we did with the drainage profile, as people are aware, as you get close to the railroad tracks, the grade goes up to go over the railroad tracks. The railroad tracks were actually installed very high also for, back when they did it, to stay above a certain floodplain.
So Jim, I'm just going to move the slide forward to slide 5 to some of the engineered aspects. Maybe you could just talk off of that.
All right. Let's see, so that's showing the intersection. But that's really where the island is kind of the existing high point of Industrial and Second House Road. So the water has to make it over that point. Putting basins to the west of that island going up to the railroad tracks was impossible. So we basically pitched the road going up towards the railroad tracks from this island. So any stormwater that flows between the railroad tracks and this island here is flowing towards the island overland. All right, there's going to be the properties on the north side of the roadway are higher, so those waters will be contained. The properties on the south side are lower, but we're actually putting an asphalt tip up in there. It's like a sloped asphalt curb to keep the stormwater off the commercial properties or the adjacent owners' properties, and bringing it to some basins that would be, I think, shown on the next slide. Let's see, slide. Well, you can see sheet 8. It's a.
Well, so we didn't put them all. Can you go to slide 7 if you don't mind? One more slide forward. So this will be a little bit of where the drainage and the daylighting would be, which is a DEC approved permit.
Well, that's part of the DEC approved permit, but if you go to sheet 8 for a second, Dave.
So we don't have those up on the slide deck here, but I can show the board members.
Oh, you don't have sheet 8?
Oh, he means sheet 8 in the PowerPoint.
In the PowerPoint, yeah.
But do you, sir? I'm so sorry about that.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah.
Oh, I apologize.
Yeah. So basically, where the basins are shown as the little blue squares and the pipe is blue lines, there's 2 outfalls into the pond that we had to go back and forth with New York State DEC to get approval to that.
4.
So there's actually a.
Yeah, I know, but we have it on 4. Give me 1 second, Jim. It's going to go back to 4 if you don't mind. It's just a little larger for the viewing public.
Okay. Gotcha. So, but you're not allowed to actually just do a direct discharge, into any water bodies in New York. It has to be somehow filtered before. So there's actually, in the last 2 basins next to the pond, before the outfalls, there's some hoods in there that are oil separators and trash, so no trash that enters into the basins. And an oil separator will make it into the pond. And once it dumps into the pond, it actually goes into, I'll call it a roadside gully that is planted with New York State DEC suggested plantings. And that water is impounded in this planted ditch before it overflows into the pond. So the plantings in there help filter out any of the pollutants that might be in the stormwater. The alignment, the acute angle of that Industrial Road and Second House Road comes in at, and the speeds of the vehicles make it very difficult, for drivers coming out of Second House and North Shore Road to actually enter onto Industrial or Second House. There's limited sight distance there from the Phragmites, some of which will be taken down to put that roadside ditch in. So we're adding a stop sign at the approaches to the intersection on Second House and Industrial.
So that's going to be a discussion we'll have a little later. So that's a recommendation of the public safety aspect, and we'll get that discussion. We'll just stick to the drainage, if you don't mind.
Okay.
The road right away, not the right away, the alignment.
Okay. So we're also cleaning up the alignment of the intersection and formalizing the island in there. It's going to have a mountable curb with a granite block or Belgian block pavement behind the curb and a grass area behind it. So in that grass island that you mentioned, Dave, PSE&G has a big vault under there that we have to work around. I mean, of course, anything can be done to move it, but that would be that's a big task for them. So they asked if we could work around that. There's a lot of feeds going into that, and so we agreed to try to work around that. So that's going to be in the grass island, though.
So thank you, Jim. So a lot of this gets back to saying this is a very constrained site for multiple reasons, environmentally, topography, also just what's underground, what you don't see, and then we also have property lines that are all around there then too. I believe, remembering back when there was discussions about locations of the original substation, that the majority of the power for Montauk comes underneath of here.
Yeah.
Then too. So that's why you can't go deep. You have to try to serve the public by trying to get the water off the road as soon as possible by designing it. You're not going to, with the rain bomb effects that we're having right now, it's not going to be perfect, but we're looking to do much better than what's there right now. And the engineering is for what we can do with those constraints.
Yeah, and some of the pipes that are heading into the pond are going to be very shallow. Like I said, the water table, we did a bunch of test borings here. It's 2.3 feet down. All right, so, and we had to get around the buried electric at some points to get the pipes to there. So we're actually going with some cast iron pipe because you could bury that at a much less depth because these electric cables that are in there are actually surrounded by a concrete collar. So in case somebody is actually digging and didn't call 811 for the mark out, you know, if a machine hits one of these lines, it's going to be a catastrophe. This isn't your regular house service. This is, you know, this will melt the machine. So in order to get over that, we put smaller diameter double cast iron pipes next to each other to be on top of the, you know, be on top of their facilities, which is they're okay with. That's why they have the concrete around it.
So you had mentioned the planted dish. So is that the plants there that are acting as also to filter the water? Is that?
Yes.
So when we go out to bid, is that something that we could ask, like we've done with water quality projects, where the contractor is responsible for a certain period of time of making sure that those plants are?
Oh, it's in the spec. They're responsible for a year from when the town accepts the project.
And that was similar. Maybe we asked for longer.
We might want to do,
Oh, you might
water
wanna do it
quality
longer?
projects, I think we're doing 3 years, aren't we?
3 or 5 up to it right now.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to pay for it, but,
Right.
you know, as long as it's in the spec.
Shocker. Yeah, that's why we do more paid parking.
Just overall, I mean, I talked with Steve that this is being designed for a 2-inch rainfall event, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so if we're seeing 6-inch rain events, which we have done more recently, we're still going to see significant flooding here.
But it'll dissipate. Like right now, when you have a flood, it'll stay there for a week.
Okay.
So you might, if we have a 5-inch rainfall, there'll be a puddle there for an hour till it comes out.
Are there engineering elements that we could implement that would potentially raise the capability of this project to manage more intense rain events? I think particularly about the lip on the south side, you're talking about a 2-inch rise on that one where you just put a higher lip in. Would that potentially help move the water faster?
Well, what the problem that you have there is the lay of the land. I understand what you're getting at, but when you start trying to design for a 5-inch rainfall and you want it to disappear immediately, you're talking pipe diameters that aren't going to get over these electric lines that are there.
Okay.
All right. So like right now, the problem is when they have floods there, there for a long time. And in the winter, it's very problematic. You're not going to have that issue anymore.
The duration of the flooding event is what we think we can mitigate most,
Yes.
as opposed to flooding events themselves.
Correct.
Okay.
And then also the first flush then too, which is always important. That's why you're putting those slash biofilters in there
Yep.
on the smaller rain events. But I know that the superintendent of highways is extremely concerned about the lasting rain events, the lasting ponding on there, particularly in the winter season,
Yes.
for the safety.
No, I had many discussions with Mr. Lynch.
Yeah, my other concern, just, there's always is the unintended consequences. Like, our goal is to move the water flow towards the pond, which is great. But, the risk of flooding adjacent properties with any engineering kind of changes we make to the road gradient, we're putting in the lip.
Well, like I said, the properties on the north side are all at a higher elevation.
Yeah, so it's really on the south side.
So the south side, we have the asphalt tip up in, and then where they have driveways, we're going to have to pitch the driveway up before it goes down. Because we're going to be putting in, a considerable, in some portions, to try to keep the grade at a constant. We kept a 0.3% slope from the intersection up to the railroad tracks to hit. That's like the most minimal slope you can use on a road without having problematic puddles and flooding areas. The water won't be coming off the roadway. I mean, if the adjacent owners don't have drainage on their property now, which right now, all the road water goes onto their properties. That's not going to happen anymore. They'll have to contain the water that falls on their property.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Jim Grimes again. Jim, I'm not really worried about that, the paved road going over the tracks. The influx of water, the last few heavy rains for us is North Shore Road, okay? It put puddles in that intersection. It backs up to the north and west and finds its way into my property from North Shore.
And you mentioned that at the last, you mentioned it the last time we spoke. I'm trying to get to the slide that shows that.
Hey, guys, I just want to say, because I know you're trying to kill time here. I'm hungry too.
I wouldn't call it that.
What do you call it? I want to say, as one of the property owners, understanding this is a vast improvement on the previous iteration of this, and I think it kind of proves that sometimes less is more. I think the only thing I see with it, and Jim and I talked about it, is one of the problems with this intersection in the last 30 years has been the Phragmites and the sight lines. Years ago, you used to be able to see cars coming down.
Stay with me.
Coming down Industrial Road.
Jim, I got one for you. I love this one. Page 9, please. So just because of that, Jim. So Jim Grimes is here. Jim Grimes, actually, we used to lead the Boy Scout troops. So if you look in 2008 from a Google Maps, Jim Grimes, you assisted with.
No, that was Peter Joyce.
Was that Peter Joyce?
Back. But
I apologize.
But here's the deal. I know Jim's agent, firm handled Pussy's Ponds and the Phragmites excavation that occurred over there. One, it's a bit of a heavy lift on the permitting. It is a costly way of addressing the Phragmites. For a situation like this here, this would really work better as a cutting project. You couldn't certainly pony this with this project at the moment, but it was probably a permit that you'd pursue independently to do cutting down there. What that's going to really mean, the first cut's going to be the expensive one, but you're going to have to cut that Phragmites probably 4 times the first year, 3 times the second year, twice the third year, and you may ultimately kind of hover and plateau at 1 to 2 times a year cutting. But the benefits here is, one, you'll improve the sight lines for this intersection. You're going to improve the vistas onto Fort Pond. And what you'll probably see here is there is enough native vegetation left below that Phragmites. You'll probably see some real natural recruitment in the area. And is it an ongoing cost? Yes, but I think it's a nominal cost for the town. to manage that.
That's what I was going to be getting to next after the sight lines, and that's why when I was going through the Google Street View maps, I was fortunate enough, actually the first time they ever did it, 2008, to show that vantage point of when they were cut, and I apologize to you or Peter for that, but how in 2008 you could see the sight line coming down Industrial Road, how they were cut back, and you could see all the way up to Rushmeyer's there. They didn't have that coming. They didn't have the street view the opposite direction, but how it is now with the sight lines in 2024 to the left, you can't even see into the curve. In 2008, you could see up all the way up to the curve a couple hundred yards on there.
And that may be actually end up being a blueprint for some other areas, specifically along Industrial Road, where, you know, in terms of scenic vistas, we've lost a lot of that over the years. But listen, I don't want to deviate from this. We're happy with the plan right now. Tom, to speak to your issues on volume, I think they've designed this to be about as efficient as probably can happen there. We're expecting on a 4-inch rain to have a puddle there. The difference between what we have now and what's proposed, I think, by Peterman, is that water will dissipate within a 24 to 48 hour period. And you know what? That's an enormous difference to what we have today.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate you coming and
And
discussing.
thank you. Nice job, Jim. Thanks.
Thank you.
So we'll just sort of continue on if I don't.
He had a question that started this thing about the water that comes off of North Shore.
Hey, what are you gonna do about that?
If you can go to this sheet 6.
You guys gonna raise my property up?
Your electric rates might go up.
Okay, so where North Shore Road hits the intersection, you'll see a dark gray area. That's actually a concrete gutter.
Yeah.
So
Because my concern is, you know what happens right now, Jim? We get that puddle forms out here. It backs up into here, and then it flows into my property, and we get probably,
understood.
it's probably 1,200 square feet that
Well, the reason
occupies into
the
my
reason I'm
lot.
actually putting a concrete gutter across the intersection, because I said
Is to
before,
kind of guide it.
is to guide it, but actually when you try to do that in asphalt, that it's such a slight grade, you'll end up with a puddle. So we're going to actually form this out and do it in concrete.
All right.
So it's going to take the sitting water that's at this
Hey,
intersection and
Jim,
send it into
is there
the
a
basin.
contingency plan in the event that that isn't 100% effective or even 40% effective?
So, as far as contingency for,
I think the answer to that is, once we go out to engineering on this, it's going to be
The
installed.
simple thing is I may have to raise my lot.
Or the contingency plan, we'll stay in contact here as your representatives to see what we can do best. What we don't want, this is not going to be a perfect plan. This is going to be a better plan that's there. And we will keep evaluating how this design affects it, and we have to modify and change. We'll continue to work together, Jim.
All right, no, but I'm happy.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Appreciate that. So if you don't mind, I'm going to go on to page 8. Thanks, Jim. Thanks for coming. So the next component of this, and the questions later, is about the engineer design. The road design would be the vehicle and pedestrian safety concerns. This was discussed at the Montauk CAC, I believe, back in November when we initially brought it up. This intersection has a high volume of traffic. A lot of that is because individuals, Tom, as you know out here, others individuals are trying to get around the downtown hamlet of Montauk during the summer season or all seasons. It's a mix of residential, and there's a lot of commercial users in this and vehicles in this location. You have heavy industrial trucks, you have school buses, you have gas companies, landscape companies, trailers, and a lot of that in this area. It's also a very popular bike and pedestrian route, not just to the beaches, but also to go around township. And again, the low sight lines are due to buildings and wetland vegetation, which was sort of just discussed. So as we bring that forward into page 9, once again to the town board, as I was just mentioning earlier, I was fortunate enough to see how in 2008 there was Phragmites cuttings. They might have been done earlier than that. I'm not exactly positive on it, but it shows the differences to where we are in 2004. While that won't be part of this DEC permit for this project, it could be something that we could look at as instituting in future projects or for funding upcoming, because yes, it would have a public safety benefit to that as far as vehicles and traffic, but also in the environment then too. And we're doing it in other locations, but there will be expense. We can discuss that a little bit more. But I want to make sure the town board saw that as I was able to find that and put it together, because picture describes it right there. So next, if you don't mind, in the next discussion, it would be potential changes to vehicle traffic laws for consideration. In looking at this location, we're looking at it for the environment, also for the roadway safety, but also for pedestrian safety and safety of drivers. For consideration to the town board, while there are multiple stop signs in this location and coming off North Shore Road, and also from Navy Road on there then too. There wasn't one on Midland Road. I'd be looking to do that's an additional spur at the bottom at a stop sign. And for greater topic of discussion, would it be to potentially add stop signs that would be heading north on Second House Road and southwest on Industrial Road and onto the right quadrant there. That would also be a new additions potentially to this location. And part of that would be to try to slow the traffic down into this intersection, because individuals are not yielding either commercial or residential traffic to other individuals coming out of any of the other spurs on that. That caused in the Montauk CAC in November a debate on this. Some individuals were for it, particularly because they know that individuals have been struck and killed in that location there. I believe, like gentleman said, on his bike back in the 70s. Others are, meh on it as far as changes on there then too. I will look at it as a potential global approach for safety. That is something I discussed with not just town police, but also with Steve Lynch. There's different ways we can do this. If it's straight up and we wanted to add 2 stop signs onto Industrial and Second House Road, we can do that through the code. Or we could also do it through New York State Highway Law 102, where he can actually put in temporary signage in that for a temporary period. And maybe we can actually end up also doing a type of online survey for individuals that give us feedback if they wanted to or not. I am not strong in necessarily either direction on this. I am very strong in trying to make it safer for the general public, and that's what we're trying to discuss on there right now. The other stop signs to the left coming off the Second House Road, Industrial, North Shore Road, I believe are appropriate. The majority of them are already there. I think the main discussions are the 2 ones on Industrial coming southwest, and also Second House Road going north on there then too. And
David, just want to add to that.
Yes, sir.
The 2 stop signs, the big ones on, that we're talking about adding. If you're trying to get, coming off of Industrial or Second House, trying to get into these roads, it's trying to get a break in traffic, especially in the summer. It's problematic and people are jetting through it.
I think we use the word challenging.
Challenging? Okay, challenging. But it's also challenging when you're coming out. So we're trying to get rid of the T-bone effect when people just can't get through and they gun it to get in and out. So.
And that's what the recommendation from the engineering firm is on there. Again, there's ways we can do it by putting it in using, Steve Lynch can do that part of his authority on this project, or we can also just go to the code, remove them if we wanted to later on. But I wanted to bring this to the town board. Again, this is the discussion to the next step, if you don't mind, to the next page for next steps. The first request of the town board now is a final determination on the roadway design. That would be what you've seen either for the drainage aspects on it, the paving, the guardrails are going to be wooden guardrails on there, the DEC permitting on there then too. Because working with PSE&G, who's going to be producing much of the funding for this project, we're letting this bid package we would like to do in April and May for a construction target to start after Labor Day of 2025. So if I can parse this out maybe in the 2 discussion points,
Sure.
Madam Supervisor. how the board members feel about the overall design of the project sans any changes to the stop signs on there or additions to stop signs.
I'm supportive.
I am as well.
I'm supportive.
Jim, let's move ahead with that then to final construction documents on there, and we'll get prepared. And please let the representatives at PSE&G know the same on there, and we'll try to get onto the timeline to get the bid out to that time frame to have construction after Labor Day, preferably maybe October if you don't mind. And how long do you think this project might take in
I'd say
construction?
3 months max.
Okay, so it'd be great to have it done before the real cold, like of now
Yep.
and such. So thank you very much for that. That was easy enough. The next one will be determination about the final traffic control designs. This is something we can discuss now or later and come back to it as maybe we want to drive through that intersection. It's about adding the additional stop signs, I think specifically in those two locations. I think if Anne Marie, if you can go back to, let's see, page 4, if you don't mind, that might give us the best schematic. You got it. So you'll see the white lines that are there, and at the board, I'll circle them on mine. And again, they'd be for stop signs coming down Industrial Road or up Second House Road then too. The other stop signs we would have to add in the code would come off of Midland in this location. It's a little spur here. And I believe we have to add one legally into the code right now coming off of North Shore Road, which makes sense. So they stop coming off the road. But again, as the major traffic moves through there, sight lines are decreased, heavy construction traffic and residential traffic. That's we're up for discussion right now. I don't know if anyone has any comments on it.
Yeah, I mean, I do think we need to do a little bit more outreach with those. I mean, the major users of that one road are Mickey's Trucking and the Montauk school buses coming in and out of there. So just kind of giving them visibility to this and just, getting their feedback, I think would be the right thing to do. The additions of the stop signs on Second House and Industrial, I think exactly the same place as you. Like I'm slightly hesitant towards the change, but I do think public safety, has to be the right call here. I think, one thing that's really important for residents to kind of consider with this is that, yes, if you live here, you know how to navigate that junction, to slow down because you can't see around the Phragmites. So kind of take the corner slowly and give yourself time, but you can't make the road design just because you know how to operate here. You've got to do it for the visitors who come on the weekend. So, perhaps the addition of stop signs in those two locations would be kind of right call. But I think just need to kind of reach out a bit more for myself in the community to hear their feedback.
So just to add to that, so Mickey Falchek and also representative from the busing company have been outreached on this. They were in one of their initial meetings also. So we've tried to do that, and we will make sure on these concerns and hear a little bit more. Also, tell
Great. Yeah, but the busing's done by the school, not the company.
The gentleman that was actually running it or something like that.
Justin Rayner.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And Riverhead Building Supply.
Yeah.
Also, Ken Roussel was there and others. And Steve Lynch has been reaching out to them.
So Dave, basically we're talking like one stop sign and a stop sign, a head sign on each approach and
Sure.
a white bar. So even if we bid the job a certain way and there's a change in hard on what, the town wants to do, it's just pavement marking and a sign. So
Correct. It's a town board decision at that time, but it also is a decision for the safety of the residents. I understand that. This is the easier decision for us, not you here, Jim, on this one. So, wipe the brow on that one. But again, we want to make the appropriate one as the global look at this intersection, because I don't know if this intersection's ever been looked at and with this much design right now. And that's probably one of the reasons why we're here in this conundrum also. And I think it's one of the reasons why the supervisor is so keen on trying to improve public safety through our infrastructure projects right now in the last couple of years then too. So, sorry.
Okay.
Any other comments?
No, it's a complicated intersection. There's a lot of stop signs. I'd like more info, but as everybody's pointed out, we don't need to make that decision right now. I certainly want to hear from the police department, Steve Lynch. I know you've already been doing that, having those conversations. I just, as Tom says, a little more follow-up before final decision.
Could you explain that there's a temporary process where because I've never heard that before. I mean, we've never done it. It's a slippery slope because then other, intersections, people are going to start asking for that.
So Yes.
we've always said you put it in and then you take it out.
So you could do that through the code. You can always
Right.
have a stop sign put in through the code and then remove through the code. Per New York State Consolidated Highways Law 102, general powers and duties of the county superintendents, this would be able to be done through the construction project in a temporary fashion on there. So that's something that can be done to see how you do it during the times of construction, in the construction, and then see how individuals maybe react to it on there. The unfortunate aspect of it is you wouldn't be able to adjudicate it, any violations, because it wouldn't be through town code. So that's a problem there. But again, what it does, it might give us enough of a test patch to do it. So that's different aspects of options for us to look at as we move ahead. Again, this is something that can be discussed later on. We'll bring it back to the CAC again. But I wanted to put it on the plate because the main thing right now is to get the street designed, and we'll keep discussing on any additional traffic signs if that's okay, Madam Supervisor.
Absolutely.
My concern about a temporary thing would be that then if somebody expects that there's a stop sign there and they're gone, it changes their behavior in a way that's unsafe. I understand during construction, maybe there's exceptions, but if it's obviously a construction site or people, then is it a good experiment? Because they might be slowing down anyway because there's activity there. So the temporary nature of the stop signs, I think I'm nervous about, but open-minded if, that's the way to go. I think anytime there's either one appears or goes away, people are confused for a period of time.
Sure.
So I just want to be very careful about that and prefer to do as much studying first and come up with a solid decision and hope that it's a final one as opposed to a trial period where we then make a decision.
It's a little bit like picking a college or a football team. So anyway, I will, and again, with Councilmember Rogers not here then too, we'll bring it up to her also then too. So if you don't.
Right. And I'm guessing you probably have already discussed this to some degree with the Montauk CAC.
We discussed it there. There were individuals that are supportive, individuals that were not. My last comments to them is we'll bring it back and we will bring it back for more discussion when we meet in another time. There's time to make this decision. But again, I wanted to put it on everyone's radar.
Great.
Thank you.
Jim, I thank you so very much. And we'll discuss more about the next steps then.
Sure.
And thanks,
Very good.
Chief.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good to see you again, Jim.
Okay, so our last topic is to amend Chapter 225 for the East Hampton Volunteer OSHA Rescue exemption. And that's our town attorney, Rob Connolly, is going to walk us through that. Thank you, Rob.
Morning.
It's afternoon.
It is. So there's been legislation pending in Albany for about the past 2 years that was finally signed into law on December 21st by Governor Hochul, which will make members of the East Hampton Volunteer Ocean Rescue and Auxiliary Squad eligible for a tax exemption on real property. It's essentially the same as members of the volunteer fire departments and ambulance services. In order to be eligible, the member of the EHVOR will obviously need to reside within the town of East Hampton, which includes the village of East Hampton or Sag Harbor Village that is in the town jurisdiction. The property needs to be the volunteer's primary residence. The property can only be used for residential purposes, and the member of the Ocean Rescue needs to be a member for at least 2 years. The law also allows spouses of members who were killed in the line of duty that have not been remarried to also claim that exemption. And finally, this doesn't pertain to any members right now, but within the next few years it will. Members that accrue more than 20 years of service in the Ocean Rescue, they'll be granted a 10% exemption for the remainder of his or her life, so long as their primary residence is located within the town of East Hampton.
So is there a look back period? So if I've, already been serving 15 years, I only have to serve 5 more to get that exemption?
That's right. That's right. So this is essentially the same legislation that we approved, the town board approved last year, which amended 225 for the volunteer firefighters and ambulance workers. This really, the purpose of this is to acknowledge the service of the members of the volunteer squad and to encourage volunteerism in that squad. So if the board is okay with this, I can have the notice of public hearing prepared for this Thursday.
Right, and we can only exempt our town taxes.
That's
School
correct.
districts also have the ability to opt in?
They do. They'd have to pass a resolution.
And do they have to wait until we've passed the law?
Yes.
So yeah, I've been working, are you finished with your, I don't want to interrupt. Yeah, I've been working with Rob and Jeannie Nielsen on this. I'm fully supportive. As you're pointing out, it's a little more complicated than just we make a decision. The schools, the villages, everybody has to be in on this. And I'm learning from the tax assessor's office, and it'd be really helpful if everybody is in, so there's not all these different scenarios and taxes calculated, different types in different ways. But this has been on the books. I think Fred Thiel introduced it originally. Again, I think that volunteers, we need to support them. They're the backbone of our community. We did it for the fire department. And I think this is just an extension of that. All the same types of rules, the same type of volunteer work. And I'm fully supportive of it, and I hope that we can move through quickly. I'm optimistic or hopeful we can do it for this year's tax rules, but we are in a very tight timeline. Rob put this together very, very quickly, because while it was in the conversation for a while, it was only signed into law at the end of December, and so everything had happened pretty fast.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is good legislation to be moving forward on. I think to my colleague's point, these volunteers do a huge amount for this community, and finding ways to support them is critical. So.
Yeah, I agree. I also want to thank our partners in government, former Assemblyman Thiel, who's been a strong advocate, supporter of the East Hampton Volunteer Ocean Rescue, State Senator Palumbo, and also the Governor Hochul for passing this legislation at a potential 10% exception on your taxes. That's a lot of real money then over time. But it also shows a dedication to the hard work that's out there. So I wholeheartedly support it and look forward to going to public hearing.
Yeah, I would agree. So let's get this on for Thursday so we can hear it February 6th.
Okay, very good.
Beautiful. Thanks,
Thanks a
Rob.
lot, Rob.
All right, so that's a wrap on our topics. So Tom, if you'd like to start us off with the liaison reports.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. Yes. Amagansett Citizens Advisory Committee, next meeting is February 10th, 6:30 p.m. at the Amagansett School Library. IT Department, just kind of quick recap of some numbers from last year. Our security system kind of prevented over 1,600 events. Our firewalls had almost 22,000 events. And additionally, the department supported over 2,000 help desk tickets last year. So doing a huge amount for the town, both in terms of protection and operations. Human Services, LTV, we could just pull up that image I sent over this morning. Some feel-good info this morning. 2 birthdays I want to call out. Josephine Kraske, born January 7th, 1924, and Mary Curls, born November 30th, 1923. Both celebrated their 101st birthday at East Hampton Senior Nutrition Center, along with friends and family. They had previously received proclamations from the town and new sweatshirts showing they're 101 years young. First for us, having 2 members reach 101, and it was a lovely celebration. So just congratulations to you.
And it was a packed house to celebrate.
A wonderful women.
Yeah, my old neighbor.
And I believe Hugh King showed up.
Yes.
Diane read the proclamations because we couldn't be there. And Hugh King came and shared a little bit about the women.
How the town's changed since 1923. So, yeah. Trustees, their next meeting is Monday, January 27th, at 6:30 p.m. at the town hall. ADU committee, right now we are looking at income restrictions for potential residents of ADUs and tenant residency restrictions. East Hampton Youth Task Force, the retreat, just wished me to kind of highlight that high school students are invited to join the retreat's Teen Leadership Council 2025 Community Service Winter Session, which will be meeting remotely via Zoom on Thursday the 6th at 7 p.m. Students will earn community service while helping foster a safer and healthier community. That's it for me.
Great, thank you, Tom. And thank you, Anne Marie.
I have a shorter bit of a liaison report today. I want to let everyone know that the MTA will be working on removal of vegetation in some of their right-of-ways over the next 2 weeks out here close to being Montauk. They'll be removing any trees and some vegetation from the wiring that cross the tracks as part of their inspection of their infrastructure needs. And happens all throughout their MTA corridors. And if you have any questions or concern, please contact the MTA's local representative, Anna Garcia. Want to let everyone know that as far as the southern pine beetles in the Napeague State Park, that State Parks is continuing working on the felling of trees within the Palm Knock Path, and that they are planning to hold a public meeting regarding the work in Napeague State Park to address some of this devastation caused by the southern pine beetles. This public meeting will be held on Thursday, February 13th at 6 p.m. at the Montauk State Downs. They'll be sharing some more information with me in the weeks to come, and I will be sure to share it with the general public and then also the town board if you would like to come down there for greater information. I had one last one. I can't find it. I might have to come back to it. But either way, I want to, oh yes. Hold on 1 second, Madam Supervisor. I don't have it, but I'll come back to it maybe next week. I want to say we are very thankful and happy for everything that the new year has brought to me. I appreciate that.
Thank you, David. Ian?
Yeah, the Spring CAC will have their first meeting.
Sorry, I apologize.
Please.
Yeah, it was the one that we already discussed. Myself and the internal working group had a meeting with the Army Corps of Engineers yesterday about the intensification shoaling of the Montauk Inlet Harbor, to a point where right now that we are having boats having to wait for high tide or taking their landings out of state. What is important about that, when boats have to dock and port out of state, that is loved ones that are away from their family members, that has lost revenue to shoreside infrastructure as far as fuels, grub, which is just buying of food and packing, and also landings. The amount of landings that are recorded within the state is super important as far as the quotas that are needed that we would get from any of the marine fisheries boards through the state of New York, and Montauk being the largest commercial fishing port in New York State. Any decrease in those landings that potentially decreases our quota has long-term repercussions for our fishing industries. I want to thank the Congressman's office and Senator Schumer's office for assisting with outreach to the Army Corps of Engineers. They stated that they would have a survey boat out here this week, surveying it and looking to discuss options for moving up the potential dredging outside of the endangered species windows, which would be into the fall, and other ways still to be determined. The town of East Hampton is steadfast in the support for our fisheries industry and for this project, and requests all assistance possible from the Army Corps of Engineers to move this up, as it is starting to be deemed not just an emergency, but also an economic issue to some of our residents then too. I will continue to update the board as I continuously have meetings and have done on there then too. This is not something that you've heard differently from me in the last year about the shoaling, but it's coming to a critical juncture right now. Thank you. Sorry about that, Ian.
That's okay. Important things to hear about. So the Spring CAC will meet for the first time of the year next Tuesday at 6 p.m. I believe that meeting will be at Ashwag Hall, but the committee's been a little bit nomadic, so I'll confirm that next Tuesday. So please stay tuned. Like Hugh King here, two-part liaison report. Also, I've got two new people that I'm going to appoint as early as Thursday to that committee, which is very exciting, younger people, and I encourage other people in Springs to reach out to all different types of demographics and hopefully get their input either as a formal member of that committee or just attending to see how it works. We're always looking to sort of cast a wider net. I had my first Ag Advisory meeting as a town board liaison last Thursday. Those meetings will be held on the second Thursday of every month. It was at 5 p.m. Last week. It'll probably be later as the season goes on, as the farmers get busy. Generally speaking, they've been talking about just recognizing agriculture as a distinct use from sort of regular commercial and residential uses. There'll be a lot more details, and I hope to bring them and discussion on agricultural issues to the town board very soon. LTV, I had a meeting with LTV, a new employee there, as well as their director, Michael Clark. They are talking about in the very, very early stages of forming sort of a local news program that would be televised. It's an interesting concept, again, in its infancy, but I encourage anybody who's interested or supportive or even critical of that idea to reach out to me or to LTV to see where that goes. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about the license plate readers. I was really encouraged to hear that conversation today and how helpful it was for the police. As liaison to the town clerk, I've been talking to Carol about how we would broaden that program. And like everything else, there are going to be some complications in terms of the software and integration of it. But hearing that presentation today, I'm very hopeful that in the coming year or years, we will move towards license plate readers as opposed to manual inspection. And I think it'll be more accurate and overall better for everybody and more efficient for the town. The last thing I guess I'll say, I know I said that was last, but I visited the beach ditch plane on the way here today, and I was really encouraged to see how that sand has held up, and I met some local residents of ditch who are very excited about the restoration project. I know that Kate Rogers and Dave have been working on. Just wanted to say that. It's nice to be in Montauk and to see that beach was strikingly better than last year, although we all know in one or two storms that could change very, very quickly.
Thank you, Ian. So I just wanted to give an update on the Center for Modern Aging and Human Services. The contractor Green Velvet was on site beginning yesterday to start the tree clearing at the 403 Abraham's Path. We had the surveyor on site, the silt fence, construction fence, and tree protection fencing is being installed this week, and clearing has begun. I wanted to just talk about an incident that occurred at the Montauk Playhouse on Friday, January 10th. An issue was discovered at the Montauk Playhouse during ongoing construction work on the new parking lot in relation to the new aquatic and cultural center. It is believed that subcontractors inadvertently damaged the fuel lines and containment piping feeding the generator oil tank from the main oil tank. This incident has resulted in heating fuel leaking back into the main containment tank and into the ground. The town of East Hampton took this matter very seriously and initiated immediate steps to address the situation. The actions taken to date include the town contacted its environmental contractor, Arco Environmental, to pump out the secondary containment tank and begin remediation efforts. Arco Environmental arrived on site on Friday and extracted the oil contained within the overflow basins. The contracted oil tank company, Island Pump and Tank, was notified to evaluate the damaged piping and propose a comprehensive repair solution. However, due to a scheduling error, Island Pump and Tank did not send a technician on yesterday. They have assured the town that a technician will arrive this morning to assess the damage and develop a repair plan. Chief Fire Marshal Dave Brown dispatched Fire Marshals Alex Arico and Joe McDonald to assess the site last Friday. The spill was reported to the New York State DEC, and a spill number 2408467 was assigned to the incident, and a DEC officer arrived on site on Friday. The DEC officer advised that any soil that smells like oil needed to be excavated. The contaminated soil has already been excavated and is being held on site for proper transport and disposal. The DEC is returning today for reinspection and final soil testing. The contaminated soil will now be trucked away and disposed of at a properly licensed facility. Once cleared by the DEC, the area will be backfilled with clean material and compacted. The town is working closely with the general contractor, Island Pump and Tank, Arco Environmental, and all relevant parties to ensure the cleanup is properly implemented and all necessary remediation measures are undertaken to protect public safety and the environment. We appreciate the swift action of our town staff and partners and will continue to provide updates as the situation develops. And the last thing I wanted to mention is about next week's work session. We are going to be having a presentation by the Zoning Code Amendments Work Group, as they will be bringing back the gross floor area formula. And that's what I have from my liaison report. The council member had to step out to take a call from Senator Schumer's office. So let's move on to resolutions. Tom, if you could please start.
Certainly. And one of you two will second me? Thank you. Resolution 2025-120. This is to appoint East Hampton Arts Council members for 2025. Members as listed below.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
2025-121 is for a wellness program, 60-plus senior karate, whereas Oscar Giles is a senior, he's going to offer senior karate instruction as part of our wellness 60-plus program. This will have the winter series consisting of 12 total classes for a cost to the town not to exceed $900.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
2025-122 is again a wellness program for 60 plus. This is for Laurie Nesbitt to provide afternoon yoga instruction for 25 classes at a cost to the town not to exceed $3,125.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
2025-123 is an additional wellness program, chair yoga for Stacy Hasler, who's agreed to provide chair yoga instruction at the senior center at a cost to the town not to exceed $12,125 for 97 classes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
124 is a functional fitness wellness program, whereas Ed and Phyllis Davis of the Wellness Institute Southampton Hospital will offer a total of 50 classes on Wednesday mornings at a cost to the town not to exceed $3,500.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
125 is a program for meditation offered by the Senior Center for Lydia Burns to do a weekly meditation instruction to seniors for 24 classes at a cost to the town not to exceed $1,800.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
126 is another wellness program. This is for Qigong dance for Margaret Iacone to offer Qigong instruction classes, a Chinese method of wellness and fitness. She'll be offering 48 classes at the East Hampton Senior Center at a cost to the town not to exceed $4,800.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
127 is also for Margaret Iacone for Qigong classes. This is to offer 32 classes at the Ashwalk Hall location in Springs at a cost to the town not to exceed $3,200.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
128 is a wellness program 60 plus for Zumba for Leah Terry Brigante to offer 97 classes at a cost to the town not to exceed $6,790.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. 129 is a great program by Joyce Raimondo of the Jackson Pollock Center to offer a painting workshop to the 60-plus community at East Hampton Senior Center on today, January 14th at 1 p.m., so going on right now. It is a cost to the town not to exceed $25.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
130 is approval for Human Services Senior Nutrition Program, Nutrition 101, for Margaret Iacone to have 6 sessions on Senior Nutrition Program at a cost to the town not to exceed $300.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
131 is to approve the 2025 WINSPA Safety Service Article 19A driver file review. This is for Human Senior Center for review of driver's files for preparation for New York State Department of Transportation at a cost to the town not to exceed $600.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Would you like to do David's?
Carol, who would you like to do David's?
Either one of the two of them, so I can just move them up and move them down, so Ian's fine.
Could we go, should we, last time we did this and then Dave came back, can we skip them, come back, or not really? I'm happy to just read them too, if that's you prefer. Resolution 132, this is staff certified arborist continuing education for Andrew Gates and Andrew Drake. Costs that'll be reimbursed in the amount of $125 each.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 133, approval for reimbursement of special events seasonal cleanup deposits for 2024. This is for Sound Aircraft Services, the East Hampton Airport Holiday Party, in the amount of $500, and for the Montauk Chamber of Commerce, Magic of Montauk, in the amount of $750.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 134 to accept security and undertaking. Michael Pierce, Urban Renewal Parcel 1 and EH-417, Atwell Street, East Hampton. And the amount is $14,500.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 135 to accept proposal for Walbridge surveyors to survey and obtain a topography with 2 feet contours of roughly 2,600 linear feet of beachfront along Ditch Plain Beach, including all property lines, including the creation of easements over a portion of the beachfront parcels for a cost not to exceed $8,640.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 136, this is to amend Resolution 2025-37, cash drawer funding for the Justice Court, and this is to add $4,000 to the Justice Court cash drawer amount, making a total of $5,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 137, this is to pay a bill for petty cash for the Office of Housing and Community Development, and the payment is hereby authorized in the amount of $71.61.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 225-138 is to appoint ARB member Susan B. McGregor Scott to the Architectural Review Board for a 5-year term expiring December 31st, 2029.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
139 is to appoint Zoning Board of Appeals alternate member John Thorson Jr., and that is for the calendar year expiring December 31st, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 140 is a Police Department 2024 budget modification. We're moving 300 from office expense to food and meals, and 700 from Police Department clothing, cleaning allowance to dental and optical.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
141 is to amend Resolution 2024-1544, and this is to have Maureen Murkowski as an additional participant in the Lifeguard System Surface Ice Rescue Technician Level 1 class that members of East Hampton Ocean Rescue are attending, and there is no additional changes to the budget.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 142, this is to appoint Planning Board member Reed Jones to fill an unexpired term for a period of 1 year until December 31st, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that is what we have for today. We do need to make a motion to go into exec session. No one who wants to make it. Those are the basic.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session for personnel, contracts, and litigation.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, LTV. Thank you, Montauk Library, for another great year ahead. We appreciate it.